Okay.
There we go. Let's hope it works. All right, I
And we look
restarted it.
pretty, we look pretty clear now. Before, every time you would ask me a question, you would freeze, and I'm just talking away. I couldn't tell if you were staring intently with that like smoldering eye, or you were, yeah, couldn't
Yeah,
tell.
yeah. That's why I do try to. That has been a weird Zoom specific affectation, which is to keep moving to let people know you're like, yeah, and lots of excessively visual feedback of I am still live and not frozen. So yeah, good detail. But basically, what I wanted to focus on next is how
How did I get through the book?
right, how you were able to protect your time that well to be able to then engage with book writing, because so many people talk about, oh, I'd love to write a book, but then they answer every text and then they say yes to every invitation for their attention. They answer the phone, right? So they allow their attention to get pulled anywhere so that they have zero time carved out for focused productivity. So walk me through your process of making that time sacred.
Well, I already get up pretty early in the morning. I get up around 3:45 every single day. Before anybody, wonders, I go to bed around 11:30. I just happen to be one of those freaks that do not need naps during the day, and I can function at 100% with 4.5 to 5 hours of sleep. I don't know why, but it's a gift. But I've noticed, and it started before the whole coronavirus and everything went down with virtual school. A lot of the quality time that I would have with my older sons had to be early in the morning, uh, because after school they're out with their friends, they have jobs. I was always at work until like 7 o'clock at night. So the one thing that we had was the gym, and I would take my boys to the gym with me, and I still do, at 4 a.m. And we'll work out for about an hour, hour and a half, come home, get showered. I would go to work, they would go to school. Everybody's good to go, but we had still spent that quality time together. And that habit is just something that stuck with me even after I got laid off for the corona thing. And, my boys started moving out, and I've got three getting ready to be four moved out now. But that 4 a.m. gym is probably might as well be my prayer time, right? Because with all of the responsibilities and all of the projects that I have going on with, trying to make sure we don't end up homeless again, and at the same time manage any issues with my company and still produce more value. It uh it's been really beneficial to have an hour every single day where I can throw heavy things around and get rid of any frustrations and just clear my head. And I noticed that every time I came back from the gym, I felt like I could just create anything, right? My head was clear. And I always, like I said, I always wanted to write a book. So I said, all right, well, as soon as I get back from the gym, start a pot of coffee and leave it sitting there, chug down some water, sit on my front porch. I don't care what the temperature is, smoke my pipe and pound through at least 1,000 words. How I got through the book was I told everybody on, all of my Twitter followers that, hey, I'm going to write a book in 2021 and I'm going to start today. And I don't want to be made out to be a liar. So I had to, this is just me. No one told me I had to, but for me, I had to post, look, here's progress. Here's an extra 1,000 words today. Boom. Now it's another 1,000 words this day, so forth and so on until it's over 40,000 words long now. And that accountability to myself, because also, in addition to being kind of dumb and stubborn, I am also a little crazy because I will have arguments with myself about, well, if it's hard, you can just take a day off, or you're tired, just take a day off. And then there's the other side of me cussing me out, calling me a pussy and all this other. And then I get mad at the guy for being right about calling me a pussy. And then I end up doing the thing because I don't want to be called a pussy by that one guy. And I'm the only one standing there. And so it's the same kind of thing with my book. And I said, I've got a lot to say. I've got a lot of things to say about one particular thing. It's kind of the way that I view the world and the way that I've come to understand the world, especially seeing the way that there are very different dynamics between social classes and secularism and more religious cultures. And I said, okay, I got a book I got to write because I got a lot to say about it. But I'm never going to write it if I try to write it at any other time because I've got 9 kids, I've got a wife, I've got a big dog, and I got friends that won't stop texting me. So I have to be doing this at a time when they're all asleep. So I just slotted it in right there.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good detail, right? Is, well, be be productive before people can get a hold of you, right? And also be able to share your perspective of the background and everything. And also you're a man of your word, right? So that kind of public accountability is a really good lever against yourself in order to get you to do the thing. There's a lot of folks that love the emotion of saying they're a person who does stuff to get the positive reinforcement from the audience and then go, oh, now I don't need to follow through because I already feel good about it. So I now can be seen as a person who's going to write a book, not be an author. Right. So that's a good distinction to know about yourself.
Yeah, for me, there's nothing positive about me telling people I'm going to do something because that just means I now have to do it. And I'm like, why did I say that? Because I can't go back and delete that tweet because somebody remembered it. So, yeah, I said it. I'll do it.
It's that
But
screenshot, man.
yeah,
Everybody's
but
screenshotting Twitter.
for me, a man's word is the only thing that no one else can take away. It's something he has to give away and make worthless himself. No one else can take it away. And so, especially now with, social media censorship and, was the social distancing and all that other, if I go down, at least I'll go down being honest.
I
They'll
like it.
remember me that I never pulled any punches and I didn't sugarcoat anything. And I also did exactly what I said I was going to do. It might not have worked, but I did it.
You might be wrong, but at least you were right about being wrong, right? That kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what is it that you're writing about? Right. So a lot of folks say, oh, I got the next American novel in me. Never write anything. Oh, I'm going to write a book that's never existed before because, again, it shouldn't. So what is it that you spent months of your life and 40,000 of your words birthing into the universe?
Well, it took me 35 days to write this, writing, a little over 1,000 words a day. And it's taken me almost a quarter of that just to fix it. But essentially, I'm happy with the way it's come out. The book is called Empire Divided: A Modern Man's Path Back to His Tribe. You know, ancient man didn't have a lot of the problems that we had today, but he probably had more, right? We don't have roaming hordes of bandits, you know, at least unless you live in Southern California, going down the streets trying to kill you every single day for the most part. But there's been an imprisonment of the wildness of man. It was T.K. Whipple who said that uh, man spent the majority of his life or the majority of his existence, and I'm paraphrasing terribly, the majority of his existence trying to build or build civilization while within the wilds. Or there was I screwed that up altogether.
We'll cut
He,
it out.
no, you're good.
Screw it. We'll fix it in post. Screw it. We'll do it live.
Right. Now, he had said that for the majority of man's existence, when it came to civilization, it always existed within him because he lived in a world that was wild. Right. And it was as, man developed and learned agriculture and learned building that he built an external civilization. Well, all that left was the wildness that was left inside of him. And when he moved inside those walls, he became trapped. The wildness was now trapped within these walls. And I've come to look at post-modernity and the modern culture that we live in, no matter what country you live in, as an empire. Because, empires are very, very centralized. You don't have a lot of room for negotiation when it comes to the laws or the rules. You've got non-elected officials that tell you what the policies are going to be. There's a unification strategy where no matter how different you are now all the same and united under one banner. It's every bit of an indirect empire, right? It's just not what Alexander the Great had. And you see it now in society with people becoming more and more divided, but surprisingly acting like it's a bad thing. And I'm going to piss a lot of people off with this book, which is why I had to self-publish. No publisher would touch it. But we need to discriminate more. And I don't mean on grounds of, race or religion or sexual orientation, but we need to discriminate on values. You know, you're you're told that you have to love and care about everyone, right? You physically and biologically can't. You don't have the bandwidth to do that, right? It sounds harsh, but that little kid from that news article that was 3 years old that washed up on the shores of Italy, because they denied them entry from Libya, he's not my problem. And it's not because I don't think that what happened to that kid is horrible. I'm a father. That is a tragedy. But it's a tragedy to the people that knew and loved and cared about that kid. I can say, objectively from over here, yeah, that's bad. It would suck. I can empathize that, man, the kid's poor parents. It must be hard for them. But I don't have the bandwidth to focus all of my love and attention to these people because I've got my own tribe of people that I'm caring about. Right? Diversity is great up until it's not. And if you have unchecked diversity, you move into this realm of cells starting to splinter off from the main. And you see that now in the political climate. It started off, it was red versus blue, left versus right. Now there's splinter cells of the splinter cells, and it's political balkanization. And there's ideological balkanization happening right now. And mankind was not meant to be a part of this giant community because they don't have the capacity to care about the entire community, right? And when I say the community, I mean the empire. Jack Donovan called it the empire of nothing because every virtue, every moral has been compromised on in the spirit of this overt hyper inclusivity of everybody, which is, it's almost like what happened with Rome. Everybody was welcome. You can come in. You know what? We're different than you. We don't believe the same thing. It's okay. We'll just mellow down this part of ourselves to make you feel welcome. When in reality, they should have said, no, you can assimilate or you can bounce. And that diversity led to, well, mine is better than yours. No, mine's better than yours. Okay, screw it. Let's fight. And now everybody's right. Everybody's wrong. Everybody's pulling at each other. And it got so bad that by the time the Roman Empire fell, Remus is turning over in his grave because people of the Roman Empire were opening the gates for the barbarians. Yes, please come mess this up. This is not worth it anymore. And you see that now. And so my book is about man's true nature is to be tribal, not to be empirical, right? I have a select group of people that I would give just about anything for. And then there's the people that I don't give a squat about. I don't hate them because there's a difference. I don't hate them. I just don't have any regard for them because they're not my people. And this is natural. You've got family members, blood relatives that are not your people. right? You see it happening now with, well, my mom disowned me because I voted for Trump or whoever. Ideological, and a shared ideology and a shared code of morals and ethics trumps everything else. If you like, my wife is a Catholic, I'm a pagan. We've been married for longer. Well, we've been together for longer than a lot of people have ever been married, much less how long we've been married. Well, we just celebrated our 12th anniversary, but we got married when we had 5 kids. But there's still a universal code of ethics and morals that we agree on. So she's my people, right? I don't care who you're dating, who you're voting for, or whatever. If we don't share at least the same values, and your values that you do have actually warrant and seek out my destruction, I'm not going to be your buddy. You don't help the guy who's trying to hurt you. If your ideology or your values conflict with mine to the point where one of us is going to end up eradicating each other should those ideologies come to fruition, we cannot be friends. I don't care if we're all under the same flag or not. And it's just a natural proclivity of people. They will click up. You saw it in high school, and that was the most plainly put example that you could possibly ever see of people becoming tribes because they were alike each other. You had the floaters, the guys who could go from the jocks to the nerds to the band geeks to, the stoners and the goths and the skaters and all that other. But each one consisted majoritively of one archetype of person. And it's because that's how we naturally behave. It's how we're naturally inclined.
Yeah. A big part of how I came to a lot of those conclusions is that an amoeba is smarter than most people, because an amoeba is a single-celled organism that is a semi-permeable membrane. Good stuff in, bad stuff out. Keep the bad stuff out, keep the good stuff in. An amoeba has better decision making than some people. A single celled organism is smart enough to know not everything gets through this cell wall. So, your values and your principles of what you're willing to suffer for, because until you suffer for it, it's just a preference. But until your values cost you something, then you know that's really how I live my life, right? So the people who are willing to define those boundaries of the people I let in are awesome, people of their word, and I've got these standards. You meet them or don't. I don't care, because if you don't, I got no time for you.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so that it's pretty straightforward. It sounds pretty harsh, like you were saying. It sounds like some Superman supervillain kind of a thing, but it's
Well, heroes are always
amoebas are
defined
smart
by
enough.
conflict, right? And in today's, everybody's equal participation trophy thing, that is the monster. Inclusivity is the monster. And so the hero has to be exclusivity, because exclusivity is the one thing that's no longer allowed, right? You know, it's funny to see people, get worried about um, nationalism. Well, nationalism is only a step in the right direction, right? You need to go further than nationalism to statism. You need to go further than statism to countyism, to townism, to tribalism. And while the tribe should care about what's going on in the town and the county and the state and the nation, it gets to a point where how much you care needs to be cut off, because you need to. Everybody always says you fix the problems at home, you fix the community, right? It's the exact same concept. So if you fix the problems at home, you fix the community, you fix the community, you fix the town, so forth and so on. But eventually that stops working. And so that is a terrible, idea to use that as the universal code, right? You know, if you just keep fixing these, the world gets better. The world's not going to get better, but the world's also not your problem.
Yeah. And also the detail of the tribe is that we do have bandwidth of available connection. And there's the Dunbar number of the maximum number of people you could have meaningful relationships with. Like,
Exactly.
okay, that's the size of the human relationship organism. When you have organizations that go beyond the Dunbar number, it's now no longer a human organism. It is an entity that has its own wants, its own needs, and it will live off the life energy of the humans that make it up. And it will make the best decisions for its continued survival, sometimes at the detriment of the humans that make it up. So then you get nation states sending individuals into war for the benefit of the state at the expense of its constituents. So it's like, I don't want to
But how
serve
unnatural
some.
does that feel? How unnatural does that feel? If you look at the way we're expected to behave and align ourselves, well, I'm not going to regard this guy over here as, my equal or afford him any type of horizontal honor, horizontal honor, the shared esteem of a collective moral code that is universally shared between these two. I'm not going to afford him any of that because he's not like me. Not again, I have to put a disclaimer on this because it's going on the internet, not skin color or race or creed or orientation, any of that crap. But his values are diametrically opposed to mine. So I don't honor this dude. He's an outsider, right? But they come in and say we're all in this together. We're really not because they're not. You know, you you don't hate them, but you don't have regard for them, like I said. And the analogy that I like to use for that is if a lion hates anyone, it hates other lions. It doesn't hate the antelope, right? Because it takes effort to hate someone. And you shouldn't be wasting your effort on worrying about the empire when your tribe needs you, right? Your tribe, the dynamic of the tribe is you contribute to the tribe and the tribe rewards you, right? The tribe values you for your contributions versus the empire. You contribute to the empire, and it's kind of like what happens when you go past that Dunbar number. It's watered down, and your contribution is meaningless. Your contributions, your presence, your strengths, your virtues, your characteristics, all of those have more meaning the smaller the group it resides in. I mean, look at Viktor Frankl, in Man's Search for Meaning. There is an existential crisis that comes when man doesn't have a purpose. He called it an existential vacuum. You don't have a purpose within the empire other than to be a faceless gray cog. But within the tribe, you have a purpose because as a man, a mere human, you can see the value and the product of your efforts and your contributions to the tribe. You can see how what you bring to the table increases the strength and the value of the tribe. While you sit there, I sit here, we both paid our taxes this year. I have no idea what that's doing, right? But you put me in a group of my people, my tribe, and we need to go and get something done. I have certain attributes and they have certain attributes that when put together, we get it done. And that feeds a man's soul much more than, well, I know it helped the greater good. The greater good is watered down after so far. You have to keep remembering that you don't have the capability of seeing a greater good outside of that Dunbar number. And
Yeah.
for me, I broke my book down into 10 chapters. And the first 9 are the 9 key areas where these virtues have been adopted and subjugated and bastardized by, quote unquote woke society to mean things that they don't, and or they've just been watered down where they don't have any meaning. Again, with the Dunbar thing, one of them is courage, another one is strength. Courage and strength both have been so watered down they don't mean anything. You know, some guy says, I'm going to change my name to Susie. Oh, he's so brave. That's not brave. I mean, I don't care if he changed his name to Susie. Good for him if that's what makes him happy. But that's not brave. Unless you live in a third world country where doing that will get you stoned to death. But in the first world, people saying bad words to you and hurting your feelings isn't enough of a risk. And for courage to be present, there has to be implied risk. Courage is measured by the amount of risk. Just like strength. Strength is measured by the amount of resistance. Well, if there's not that much resistance because you think you're this unique individual who's, I'm going to be identify as Apache helicopter. Well, 47,000 other people do that too. You're not really alone there. There's no resistance. But we've taken everything that we've considered to be a virtue and we've watered it down to mean nothing. And virtue comes from virtus, and virtus meant manliness, as far as the Latin root, right? Manliness and strength. They kind of they co-adopted that same meaning. And so if virtue is born of manliness and strength, then strength has to be the first one. It's kind of like the First Amendment exists because the second one does, right? All of the other virtues are made possible because of strength. There's discipline, not so much as being self-disciplined, because yeah, I'm self-disciplined because I get up at 3:45 and go to the gym. But being a tribal man is a learned discipline, just like playing the piano is a learned discipline. Jack Donovan, I mentioned him earlier. He and I became friends at the 21 convention last year. And in his books, he said you can be a good man, which has more to do with abiding by the standards and morals and ethics of whatever community you're a part of, or you can be good at being a man. And there's a difference. You can be a good man without being good at being a man. You can be good at being a man and not be a good man. You can have every single thing: strength, courage, loyalty, honor, integrity, determination, brotherhood, simplicity, discipline, all of these things, and still be a crappy person, right? Because you still have honor, because your honor code matches your behavior. Your honor code just doesn't match with mine, so I think you're terrible, right? I mean, prisoners have an honor code. We think it's terrible because we're not prisoners. But within that subculture, in that culture itself, within that tribe, they have honor and they are honorable, just like the mafia had honor, right? And there's cultural honor, which is what separates it from a vertical or a horizontal honor or a personal honor. And I go into all of those in my book. I won't, run through and describe all of those. But being good at being a man is a learned discipline. It's a practice that you have to implement daily. Loyalty to the empire is blind loyalty. The empire is not loyal to you. You're a number. They can't care about all of you or all of us any more than we can care about everyone else. We are just a number. They don't think of us as people. They don't think of us as citizens. They think of us as resources that have accumulated that they can move and pin and place to wherever they need us. And there's collateral. There's leakage. Sometimes you lose some. It happens. It is what it is. There's a loss that they are able to look at and consider to be acceptable. We're not people to them, but to our tribe, we're more than people. And so
where do you go though to figure out how to be a good man, right? Because there's so many people who are willing to tell you, well, a real man would X, Well, a real man does this. So there's a lot of folks out there saying, here's how to be a real man. And it's kind of like honor. It fits their idea of what serves them best. Right. So
Well, that's the
how
difference.
how is
You
it that
asked
you
me
insulate
how
against
to
that?
be. You asked me how does one where does one go to be a good man? Well, a good man is subjective, right? Being good at being a man is not. There's only one way to be good at being a man. You're considered a good man in the mob if you follow the mob's rules. You're a good man in the yakuza if you follow theirs. But but all of them at the same time are being good at being a man.
Yeah,
So they're
I like that distinction because there's so many folks like women I've dated. Well, a real man would do this. She's like, well, I'm not gonna take my cues on how to be a man from people who aren't. Like that's
and
not
that's
it, man.
part of the problem with the empire, right? The empire is filled with all of these different cultures. I made the argument in my book that'll probably piss off some people who are like hardcore flag waving Americans, that our forefathers screwed up. When America first, came around, they were very, very tribe-like. They were small and they were all united under one common cause. It wasn't so much common banner, but they were under a common cause and an ideology. And their unfortunately their shared ideology was, let's let everybody who doesn't share our ideology come over here. And they just watered themselves down until they had more people against them than for them, and now we've got the mess that we're in now. Christianity is very much like America. And if you think about it, in ancient times, if you were a certain religion or creed, it's because you were born into it, right? If you were a Hindu, you're probably born in or around India. Buddhist, definitely you're born in Asia somewhere. If you were, I don't know, Shinto, you're born in Japan, you know, but you were born within a geographical and tribal proximity to your faith, right? And so you couldn't just say, you know what, I'm going to convert to Buddhism, because the Puritans wouldn't have had that. Right? You didn't have that option. The Puritans, the Anglicans, the Catholics, no, you're not going to be a Puritan. You're not going to be a Buddhist. You're not going to be a heathen or whatever, because you were born this. And that worked in every other religion. You never saw someone who, you know, looks like he's 99% German say, oh, I'm a Buddhist. How? There was no way, until Christianity came along. Because Christianity says, doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter where you were born. You accept the Christian God into your heart, you say this prayer, and then you start following these rules and these tenets as put forth in the Bible. You're a Christian. Well, America's the same way. All you got to do to become an American is you study for an exam, you take the test, you sign some paperwork, you raise your right hand, and you say the Pledge of Allegiance, or the immigration citizenship oath thing, whatever you want to call it. Bam, you're an American. There's no barrier to entry, right? And so that's why you look at it now, you see Christianity as one of those things that's starting to get watered down. Everybody can become a Christian. Well, now all of a sudden you've got women pastors, you've got homosexual priests. Look, my son's homosexual. I don't have a problem with homosexuals. But as far as a religion goes, you're supposed to change to match the religion, not the other way around. And that is just the way it is. Like, again, I don't care what you're doing, but if you're going to follow a certain faith, you change to match that faith's tenets. You don't change the faith to match yours. Well, the same thing has happened with America. Nobody was told they had to assimilate when they got here. Many of them early on, especially when Ellis Island was still a thing. And even before, many of them, when they got here, they said, well, we're Americans now. We're not going to speak German anymore, or we're not going to speak Italian anymore. We are going to act like good Americans. And they took pride in that, and they assimilated by choice. They didn't have to. It's okay if they don't, because some of them didn't. But the problem is, it just kept happening, and it was never a requirement to assimilate to the culture here. So the tribe that was America slowly became more and more balkanized into this giant empire. There was a unification strategy. By the way, everyone, this is what we all believe. It's right up on this wall here. But none of the values were truly shared. There was no sharing of cultural background amongst the majority. There are small minorities that would click up into their own tribes. Look at it. You have Chinatown. You have Little Italy. I'm just talking about, right there in New York. You've got Koreatown. You've got Little Japantown. Because people flock to those who share their same culture and same values. And trying to lie to them and say, well, you might be this or you might be that, but you're all Americans. Well, what does that mean? So we're all under the rule of a class that thinks they're better than us in every single way because they show it every single day with the rules that are for them, but not for us.
Yeah, and that goes all the way back for anybody wondering, that goes back to Jesus. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God's, saying that, you can be wherever you are, and also here's anybody can come in on this. It's awesome. Then St. Thomas Aquinas in the Middle Ages saying, oh, you're a member of two cities, the earthly city and the heavenly city. And the heavenly city is where all the natural rights come from. So now the ultimate seat of authority is God-given, and now you can ignore the city level rules if they don't align with the heavenly rules. So it has been a long tradition of, as long as you get along, okay, that's fine. You just got to be in line with this. And it's been accepting of the idea that that's no longer viable, that has been integrated because, yeah, sure, come on in. So it's completely inverted. It's, oh, we're all unified, but it's not an ideas or values unification. It's under the banner of this other entity that feeds off of all the separate energy. So
Exactly.
it's kind of backwards in that you go, listen, you can't be of two tribes. You can't be of two allegiances. You either align yourself or not. That's it.
It has to be. You know, we can be in separate tribes and not still go to war with each other. Because I need you, you need me to trade with each other, right? And it's in no one's best interest if we're constantly at war with each other because eventually we're just going to wipe each other out, right? Or we'll get wiped down so far that we have to integrate, and then we mix the tribe, and then there's two cultures that disappeared forever. And we've seen that historically. We've seen that happen, right? It's written in history. And right now we're living in a time where history is being written and we're walking on the pages before the ink's dry because you can see this you can see this split happening and everyone's screaming, no, 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 we're all in this together. And it's just wishful thinking. It's like that husband and the wife that you're better off if you just divorce amicably and co-parent. You don't have to fight each other, but you can't live in the same house. That's not going to work. I'm just going to accept that you're not for me and I'm not for you, but I'm still going to say hi and shake your hand and be nice. And I'll even buy you a damn Christmas present because it's the amicable and polite thing to do. Just know that if you need me to sacrifice for you for the sake of my own people, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, there can be that level, right? We can get along with each other, but we need to stop lying to ourselves that we are all one, because we're not. We can't be. It's impossible. And people, one of the questions I got asked when I was talking to people about what I was writing about was, well, you can't really leave the empire. Like it's everywhere you go, unless be like Maclay and you live in a box on the top of a mountain, you know. I, God, I would love that, but
Yeah, the Matrix has you. Like,
yeah, it's got you. So how do you leave? You can't leave physically, but you can stop living within those walls that they tell you you have to. You can walk on the outside of the walls, right? You can exist outside the walls of the empire by choosing to live a life as you were meant to live it without having to bend over backwards and try, smile through your teeth, even though you're getting whipped in the back and expected to say thank you for it, by caring about your own tribe, thinking at a tribal level. My community is where I focus. My people are who I focus. I focus on these. I don't have time to focus on whatever's going on over there. And we live in a great time for that now because everything is connected. I don't even know where you are, but you and I are talking right now. And so you can interact with people who are like you. That's one of the good things about Twitter and social media is you meet other people who, holy crap, I think this guy's in my tribe, right? Hey, this guy's in my tribe, or at least he could be. He's a contender, and you never knew him because geographically you're divided. But there's a continental divide between people who live in the same state as far as their ideologies go.
I call it the fugue state. It's kind of like when people pretend to be in a coma or something, and in the movies you see them raise the hand and then it drops on their lap, and raise the hand and it drops. That's not what a real fugue state is. When you can move the hand and it just stays there, that's the kind of actual condition, right? So for me, I think of it in that way, of whatever the empire demands me to do, what position they want, the hand there, you move it, it'll stay there, but you're not going to get any additional spark or inspiration or energy from me aside from what you demand, what shape I take. All the rest of the energy goes to my tribe, to my people, to my community that is building, not in service of some entity that wants me to pour out my life and benefit to it. And it takes everything. And then what good does it do? So, bare minimum, I will take whatever shape is demanded of me under threat of violence. Anything else is reserved for people that I deal with as equals.
And that works until it doesn't, right? It works up until they turn around and say, well, we want more. And you're expected to just keep giving and keep giving and keep giving and keep giving. We saw the weirdest crap in 2020, right? We did. 2021 is not shaping up to be any damn better. It's
Yeah,
weird.
that was so funny. People like, oh, 2021 will be so much better. He's like,
We're not
man,
even in
it was.
2021. We're in 2020 level, like plus, like 2020 plus is what we're at.
Yeah.
Everybody had this magical expectation that the world was going to get better at midnight on January 1st, and it didn't. But look what's happened with just the way that whole coronavirus thing was reacted to. Right? You've got some people in some states that are so locked down. I talked to a dude yesterday who hasn't left his house at all since March of 2020. He hasn't walked outside his house, so he claims. He could be lying. I don't know. But the guy is legit terrified and has not left his house since March 2020, according to him. And then you have people like in my state, where even though there is a presidential like executive mandate that masks are required in every single government building, I walked in 3 government buildings today, and I was talking to the police officers who were in there, and they weren't wearing masks and no one cared. right? I've never worn a mask. I've even exploited the eating, drinking rule thing on the plane. Got a water bottle, I got my coffee, you know. But there's such a difference between the way people have willingly turned around and said, "Take more from me, please, to make me safer," versus "I've had enough. You can't take anymore." And the people who can't take it, who are refusing to give anymore, they're the ones who where the light bulbs went off, and they're starting to think more tribally, because the whole shame thing of if I walk outside here in South Carolina, I killed a grandma in Jamaica, you know, I don't care about that grandma in Jamaica, to be honest with you. Jamaican grandma's not my problem. I, all of my people are good. I've been everywhere and traveled everywhere all through 2020. I've got, you know, a ton of people in my house and they all live here. No one's been sick. And if they did, it was very, very minor. So maybe we've all had it and we didn't even know. But based on that personal experience and my own bias, and by the way, it's not wrong to have a bias, what affects me and the way I live has nothing to do with what affects and the way people live in California or Texas or Canada. My tribe's okay. My tribe does not need to adhere to the same rules and standards of your tribe. And people are starting to wake up to that. And the way that it actually broke down all the way between post World War II, the rebel cools who were the children of the baby boomers, or who were the baby boomers, and then the children of the baby boomers, and so forth and so on. I broke that all down in how we've created this pluralistic society where status is afforded for the exact same thing and nothing all at once. There's no real competition for it. So this tribe is now competing to be better than this tribe, but this tribe is the best at it, and so is this one. So now it doesn't matter. Kind of, yeah. That's where we're at, and it sounds like I'm talking in circles, but that is what the empire has done to us. Nothing makes sense anymore because we've gone against everything that makes us who we are. We've gone against everything that makes us human because for some reason, they think that just because, you know, nature's batting average is 1,000, that somehow in their hubris they know better than nature. You need to evolve. If I needed to evolve, nature would have done that, right? Nature doesn't create out of excess. Nature creates until it doesn't need to create. We're here as long as
Absolute ruthless efficiency.
yep. And people who don't like it can be mad. Well, wait, you might evolve. I don't know. Wait. You've got a few million years to spare. Go ahead. But fighting against your own nature, I mean, you've seen how that works. I did that, right? Didn't work out all that well for me until I started just, I'm going to be this relentless living forward guy.
Yeah. Dude, that I love it. Yep. Your tribe's awesome. So as we're getting into the back end of this, I put a call out to folks that listen to the show. I kind of gave them a short blurb about who you are, your background, and said, all right, if you have any questions for him, hit me up. And there was one in particular that came through, which was ask him about the Hornets. So this has got to be somebody that's already familiar with your work. Think we both know him.
Who it is.
Yeah. So I wanted to keep it broad enough so that the other folks don't feel left out of the awesome club. But yeah, Chief Chuck was like, ask him about the Hornets. So Chief Chuck's been on the show before. So I trust his word with my life. So I know I am looking forward to this. What's up with the Hornets?
Well, 2019, I had it was in the middle of summer. I had found a giant, I mean the biggest I have ever friggin' seen, hornet's nest under the eaves of my house just outside my bedroom window. And it's on a side of the house that I never really have a reason to go onto when I'm outside because my garden and my patio and the yard and everything and the gate where I park, all of that is right there. I never really walk onto that edge of the house for anything other than cutting grass, and my teenagers do a lot of that. And of course, they're teenagers; they don't see what's in front of them. But there was a hornet's nest that a little bigger than my head with the beard. I mean, it was big, right? And I was trying to figure out how to get rid of it. And everybody's like, "Oh, just go get some hornet spray. Go get some hornet spray." Da, 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 da. Well, I bought hornet spray. I bought 2 cans. Should have bought more than 2 cans. But then I had the idea because I've never been that guy that's like I am now because it's part of marketing. But I was never the guy who goes, "I'm going to take a selfie or a video or film this or whatever." I'm always the last guy that at the car wreck who pulled out his phone because I'm just looking. I forgot I had a phone. I'm that guy. But I go, all right, I'm going to consciously announce tomorrow I'm going to film me taking down this hornet's nest. I felt the video is still on Twitter. If you haven't seen it, I will retweet it. Um, Actually, my buddy Joseph has it bookmarked. I might even have it in mine. I don't know. But Joseph has it bookmarked and he constantly goes back and watches it when he's having a bad day. It's a bit like the Blair Witch Project because I'm holding my phone and I'm like filming myself like the chick with the runny nose in the Blair Witch. And there's a lot of swearing of me trying to work up the nerve to even spray the hornet's nest with this spray. And then the camera goes all wonky because I'm sprinting for my life trying to run away. And then after 2 whole cans of hornet spray, they weren't dead. So, to the chagrin and protests of Chief Chuck, as well as many other people, all but one guy kept encouraging me to not go about it. I got the shovel, and that worked to slice the. It worked to slice the hive in half, which only pissed them off even more. And so there was another bout of the camera going wonky with me sprinting. People commenting, "Oh my God, this is a teaching moment. Everyone at my job is watching." Yeah. And then, okay, I'm out of hornet spray and I dropped the shovel. So that belongs to the hornets now. They can keep that. I've got to go get the rake. So then I took the rake. And the entire time, Chief Chuck is commenting, "Why is he not listening to me? Stop it. Don't do this. Stop it." And it's all caps on across the live feed comments, just flying up over and over and over. Why is he not listening? Right. And I took the rake, dug it into the hive, drug it the rest of the way off my house, ran for my life. My wife and children are inside the house, dying, laughing, watching me in the back of my head get stung by these hornets. But the whole video is like 16 minutes long. And at the end of it, I still managed to plug my company, my buddy's company, and the company that we had shared together. So it was this insane marketing stunt that made me internet famous.
You did say you were stupid.
I did say that, and I wasn't lying.
That is fantastic. And that's a huge testament to you for leaving it up there. Just be like, yep. And here's the receipts.
Yeah, by the way, if you've never seen a guy attack a hornet's nest with a rake, here's your opportunity.
I love it. Yeah, I will for sure put that in the show notes in the post. Like there's no chance in hell I don't include that. So, dude,
yeah,
thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. I figured that would be one of them.
Dude, that's awesome. Dude, I hate to cut it short, but we spend a good amount of time. And dude, thank you, one, for being on here, and two, for being you. It's been a joy and a pleasure getting to know you on Twitter and finally getting to talk to you as face to face as we can with me in Chicago and you in South Carolina.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You and I have been talking to each other about 2 years now. I'm surprised this didn't happen sooner.
Yeah, that's yeah, time does that, man. I was just like, holy shit, it has been about 2 years.
And it's weird because I always put out calls, who wants to come on my podcast, and you've never mentioned it, or maybe you just haven't seen them because sometimes you don't see it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had Steve Murphy and Javier Pena. Those guys took down Pablo Escobar on my podcast, but I can't get Jonathan Pritchard.
Well, consider this my official acceptance. Yeah, I've never seen that in all the feeds. So it's not an intentional snub at all. So yeah,
All right.
I'd love to
Well, good.
come talk shop about all mind reading and that kind of wackiness.
Oh yeah, I used to watch the show The Mentalist, so I think I know a little more about it than you do, and I'll be quizzing you to see if you actually get it right.
Oh shit. I'm officially looking forward to that. That that sounds like a lot more fun than a lot I've been on.
It will be. But yeah, I really appreciate you having me on.
Dude, you got it. I'm all about it, and Tribe is awesome. So I'm stoked to pick up a copy when it gets out, and I'm gonna order the physical copy so that the digital doesn't get rewritten later by platforms. So
Well,
yeah.
if anybody with the potential power to do that gets this book, they will. You know, I'm making sure that no one has my address, because if they did, this is definitely going to be one of those things where they just show up with pitchforks and flaming babies.
Yep. Yep. Well, I'll have it on my shelf right next to all the other contraband.
Sounds good.
Awesome, brother. All right, man. I'll catch you later, and I'll give you a heads up as this goes live with links and all that jazz too for
Thank you. I
Talking Shop.
appreciate it.
All right, man. Later.